guest on the show. She's north of us in a little colder climate. So it's always good to get some cold here in Atlanta. So, Laura, thank you so much for being a guest. Would you tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve? And then we'll get into our podcast.
Yeah, so I'm Laura Ballerini from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's actually very hot today. I think it's about 30 degrees Celsius, Celsius, so it's hot today. But yeah, so I am a graphic designer. I've been in the industry for decades. So graphic design involving website design, print, trade shows, the whole gamut. So kind of a one-stop shop. And who I serve is honestly, when I first went out on my own about 26 years ago, I didn't look for a sector or an industry that I wanted to serve. I found that who I want to serve is someone who respects good design and is willing to pay for it. So that kind of became my mantra. It crosses all spectrums of industry. I have had good success in industrial manufacturing, having said that, but generally it's people that respect working with a good designer and willing to pay for good design.
Awesome. I was sharing with you my partner up there, and he's in the western part of Canada, but he would always say he has an AI agency, and he would say HI always trumps AI. So you get all this AI out here, but we need the human intelligence. So how has AI affected your industry, and what are you able to do on a higher level because of it?
Great question. What I've done, where AI has affected me and how I use AI, I'll back up a little bit, is I don't use AI for my design work or my creative work. I wrote a book and I didn't use AI in any way, shape, or form when writing it, other than maybe a little bit of Grammarly. But with my design work, I do not use AI for design per se, but I have found AI very valuable in, we may do social media campaigns with Google Ads for clients. And I found the machine learning in Google Ads is brilliant. If we're developing keywords or key phrases, or we do A/B testing, the machine learning with Google Ads, for example, is amazing. It is telling us these words are working, these words aren't. This ad is working, this ad isn't. So it really helps us with that intellectual knowledge to go, okay, well, let's do more of this and less of this, or change this up and see how that works. So AI has changed the landscape, obviously, but what it does for me as a designer, it gives me real-time results to know, okay, there's something not working with this, but there's something really strong with this. So it helps me as a designer to react to that visually and graphically and make change or improve or throw it out and start again. So AI has just become a game changer in that way. But I haven't used AI for design per se, other than for me, I find it makes my critical thinking a lot sharper because I find that, I have to add that human component and that intuition and that stuff that you're not getting necessarily from AI yet anyway. So I'm capitalizing on that and adding that human touch, into the work that I do.
Oh, I love it. I have a full-time graphic designer who does a lot of my work in the Philippines. And what I noticed, how creative. Every Monday, like, we don't talk on Friday. And so I'll give her some projects over the weekend and do it. And so her Monday or my Sunday is her Monday. So she always comes to the Monday morning session with everything created. What is your process for creating? Do you have a special place you go to? Do you do certain things to get kind of the creative juices going?
Again, great question. I listen. I talk to my clients and I listen to what their problems are. What, we're hearing pain points all the time. What are your pain points? How are you unique in the workplace? Positioning is really important. So I listen to all the challenges that they're having. And then I go away and I do research. And I look at other websites. I look at their competitors. I look at what else is going on out there. And I come I still use a pencil and paper, and I still like to sketch. Yeah, of course, all my work is done in probably the Adobe suite, most of it. But yeah, I still start with a pen and paper and start there. And like I say, I do research. I see what's out there, what's not out there, and how I can add my creative spin. And I was talking to somebody recently about, I really exercise my creative muscles. You know,
Mhm.
I'm a graphic designer. I've been in the industry for decades, and I'm very proud of that. But I've also taken up a quilting class. I'm learning how to use creativity with different mediums. In the evening or on weekends, I'm signed up for this quilting class. I'm loving it. I'm counting threads. So online, when I go to work in the morning, I'm counting pixels basically. But, on my quilting class, I'm counting thread. And I find that um, that contrast makes me a stronger thinker, I think more critical thinker, a problem
Mhm.
solver, because you're figuring out, okay, how can I make these patterns work? Well, guess what? I'm
Mhm.
applying a lot of that learning to my digital work when I'm working on the computer. So I am finding I do a lot of creative work. Somebody called me a creative criminal because I'm working at night on different projects and different mediums, but it,
Mhm.
it strengthens my creative muscles so that when I'm going to do my creative branding work or website work or whatever I'm working on, it makes me stronger, and I'm accessing all those problems that I had solved the night before in my quilting class or my sewing class. So I find, or my whatever, if I'm doing the gardening, like you're always solving problems. And I think people maybe overlook how creative we all are in our own way, and how that adds to our day job.
I love that. I like studying human nature, why things happen, and the average, at least in America, the average person is watching 4 hours of TV, and they're scrolling like 2.5 hours of social media, TikTok videos. And I often say, that's consuming other people's lives because you're consuming it versus creating your life. And ever since I started journaling, spending time writing, thinking, like my creative muscle, as you were sharing, it's just gone like tenfold. Did you, like, when you were just starting out and you were just getting into it, what what really spurred that? Was it when you were doing things as a little girl? Were you always inspired by people or things? What got you going in graphic design?
Growing up, and I still am, a quiet, shy introvert.
Hmm.
So I think what my superpower is, even as a little girl, I was an observer. I was listening, I was watching. And that really taught me a lot, right? You're kind of listening to what's not being said, or, what questions aren't being asked. And as I grew up, I was definitely the quiet, shy one. In fact, some people didn't even believe I existed. Oh, there's 4 kids in your family. I thought there was only 3. So, yeah, I was definitely a wallflower. But
Yeah.
in many ways, I tap back into that and go, you know what? That was my superpower. Like, I observed things that many people didn't observe. And I
Hmm.
listened to things, and even being able to be an empath and just listen to um, how the tone that you're speaking or the story that you're telling when it comes to brand or when it comes to any aspect of life. It's like that made me a stronger person, a stronger designer, a stronger crafter, a stronger gardener, because I am more intuitive and more
Hmm.
empath is what's the word, I'm an empath basically in the energy of the room, or the whether it's the boardroom or around the kitchen table, right? So I feel like that was something that I was always thought was a weakness, being an introvert and being shy. And I've come to realize as I'm older that is actually such a benefit to me in what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize till the last 4 or 5 years that I was both introvert and extrovert.
Mm.
And I have to come back to the source to recharge my batteries because of just, I can be out there for a period of time, but man, I have to retreat to the quiet place. How did that affect you? Because I'll often hear, like, I lived in a facility, and I would always meet the people because I wanted them to connect with. And it was 55 and older, but it was actually 80 years old. So it was older
Mm.
people. But my next door neighbor, I go to introduce her and I say, come on down, I'll introduce you to some people. And she said, well, I'm an introvert. And I said, well, we all are who we are. How did you embrace being an introvert in your own business starting out? Did you have to get in a flow to realize that superpower and it just came out? Or what was that first year like, if you can remember back when you're just on your own and starting out?
Yeah, first year was tough. I got my first job out of art college, and it was the head office of a retail store. So we were selling basically building supplies, and it was like, oh, I got to learn a whole bunch about building supplies because we're doing other catalogs and stuff. It
Mhm.
was hard. I had to make phone calls. I had to talk to people. It was like it really got me out of my comfort zone. But I think people also appreciate the quiet soul. Like
Yeah.
it's not threatening. It's comfortable. It's oh she's shy. Oh, that's kind of heartwarming. Like, today is the day of celebrity, and it's like that shy, quiet person is kind of a soft spot to land, if you will. It's kind of a nice contrast to what makes celebrity in the celebrity world today. So I
Yes.
find being a quiet person is actually quite comforting to people, and people, I'm very approachable. People
Mm.
know that I had a meeting this morning and they said, well, you can be as brash as you want. And I said, well, I won't be brash. I'll be candid, but I won't be, brash. So, that has kind of come into my personality. I've kind of polished that up a little bit that,
Mhm.
I've learned to ask the tough questions, but in a kind way. I think kindness comes first. And that's something else that I'm really proud of. I'm not the loud, brass, arrogant designer. I listen to clients and I really try to understand their pain points without being an order taker, but understanding what they need and going away and doing something unique for them. I think so. Being that quiet listener, I think, has really helped me with my career. But yes, it was tough starting out, and I've learned to rationalize my design as I'm presenting to clients, and that all came with time and age and experience. And I'm proud of where I am. And it took me all these years, though, to realize, oh, I'm an empath, and I'm proud of that. It's not something to be embarrassed that you're quiet and shy.
No, I love it. And I have found, and mainly probably have done 400 podcasts, and I have developed my listening muscle
Mm.
more than I had before. And it gives a deeper kind of presence to a conversation that I never realized until I really uh, leaned into it. And because I did it, this was a couple years ago, somebody said, well, you got to have questions that you give the guests. So I said, okay, I did some AI and got some questions. And I was so focused on the questions, I didn't listen to the answers. And I only did one. I threw it out. Said, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
But there's such value into listening. What do you, if you had to like advise a 20-year-old Laura, knowing what you know today, what would be the one piece of advice you would share with her?
Yeah, I would say listen to your heart, follow your intuition, and be unique. Be what's not well, obviously unique, but be your own person. Be proud of who you are, in whatever shape that is. I think we have to really take pride in who we are as people, and just be the best we can be, no matter what shape or form that is.
Yeah, I finished a book, and one of the I do the six freedoms, and creative freedom is one of the freedoms we talk about in the book. And I've noticed when I have people on my podcast who are more creative than not, because there's a lot of people say, oh, I'm just not creative. And I think it's just telling themselves that because we all have it in us. But here's what I've noticed: everybody that is creative and kind of in that space, artists and things like that, they're always doing something to feed that creativity, whether it's art classes, sketching, whatever. So you mentioned a couple things. How do you keep feeding that creative part of you?
Yeah, that's interesting. Several years ago, I took a workshop on. It was called. It was about storytelling, but
Hmm.
oral storytelling, not written. And I actually just signed up for a new series with her. She's a great coach. She taught me how to articulate my words.
Mm.
So I'm actually in a class this month with her again, and it's she calls it Storytelling Pod. And there's four of us in there, and as you talk about listening. So we each have a story to tell. We have to find a story moment. She calls them story moments, and it could be, big or small. And you have to capture that story moment, talk to the group about that story moment, the emotions around the story moment. But the trick is, as I'm telling the story, the audience in this group is listening to me, and they have to repeat back what they heard and what they didn't hear and how
Mm.
they felt. And that is such an impressive exercise. This is why I love this coach. She's so brilliant in, okay, you can tell your story, but we're also going to put the audience on the spot by they have to repeat your story and what resonated with them. So we're exercising both the articulation of telling the story as well as listening, like deeply listening to, oh, was there a metaphor in what you just said, or that really piqued my interest that I knew nothing about the subject matter. So it's a great exercise in both sides of listening and articulating story. And I find story is such a part of everything we do. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm a brand designer. We talk about brand story every day now. Story has become the new big thing, but it's really understanding. We can't tell that vanilla story. We have to tell that story moment that's unique to us and our business and how we position ourselves. And that's the difference. So for me, I'm actively, in story writing classes and, like I say, quilting classes and all things creative. But it makes me a problem solver. A lot of times I think people think creative people are that woohoo, and it's all grounded in, I think, a technical
Yeah.
background as well, right? So it's if you can combine the creative with the technical things that you bring to the table, I think that makes you very strong.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I did a talk. It's the four human drivers, and what are with seniors, and it was meaningful purpose and personal growth and connections, relationships, and just having that aliveness creates such a incredible feeling. But when we would talk about personal growth, I would see some not growing, and you could tell. So, how do you grow personally? Is there some go to things? What do you like to do to continue to challenge Laura to continue to grow personally?
I think it's being brave. There's a vulnerability in this class, for example. There's a vulnerability to talking about that story moment. It might be a personal, we don't know everybody personally in this group. They're all basically strangers, but you get to know them really fast because you might be talking about a really vulnerable story that hurt
Mhm.
you or that made you sad or that changed the landscape of the future. So I think being vulnerable, it's hard. And me growing up when I was a kid, I wasn't going to show that. That shows weakness.
Mm.
That does not show weakness. In my world today, vulnerability shows strength. It means you're willing to share the raw,
Mhm.
those raw feelings and those raw emotions. And that comes out when I work with clients too. It's like, what's your pain point? Like, what happens when, a client sends in a return? Like, how do you deal with that? Those are all things that are raw. Like, we don't want to deal with the negative stuff. But if we deal with it, we're better and stronger and faster. And that is my thing with taking a risk to be vulnerable, taking a risk to be raw, taking a risk to be wrong,
Yes.
and that takes strength. It's not a weakness, it's a strength.
Oh, I totally agree. There was a gentleman that was on my podcast, and we don't know how we found each other, but we did. But he brought up something which I'll always remember because he tied it to a story, and it was emotional because I found myself thinking if his story was this, he grew up in a concentration camp at age 5. So not your pre-K upbringing, but it shaped everything. He went on to be a absolute rock star in Russia. He went on incredible career, but he said this. We all know about PTSD, but he said take the D and put G for growth.
Hmm.
So the trauma we go through can create growth, or we could be just bitter and then we're not going to get anywhere. Have you had a time in your life where you're in that storm, you're not really liking it, but you're in there? And then when you look back, it was a time that you grew the most and you were kind of thankful that you grew so much through that tough time of life.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had a few storms, but yeah, you do come out stronger. About 4 years ago now, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My hair is really important to me. Well, I went through chemo. I lost my hair. I was bald. That was the time of who am I? I'm nobody without my hair. Like it's such a silly kind of thing to say, but it's like it really
Yes.
changed who I am. And that's, I think, when I dug deeper and go, so much more than my hair. And obviously my hair grew back. But at the time, it was devastating. And it's like, the cancer was one thing. My family was devastated. I had to be strong for them. My husband was completely devastated. So I had to be strong for him. And I had to dig deep and go, you know what? It's going to be okay. I'm kind of comforting him because he was very upset about the whole thing. But I also, along the way, I met so many angels on earth. The nurses were fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I met so many support, I joined a support group and it was like I met so many great people. And yes, you have, like I read a quote once. It said, depression, yes, you can go there, but you can't stay there. You
Yeah.
have to,
Yes.
you have to get out, you have to move forward. And for
Yes.
me, it was probably the biggest storm that I've had to face in my life.
Right.
Came out stronger. I never did podcasts. I never talked. I never articulated. And it's like now I've got a story to tell and I want to tell those stories. And there are a variety of different stories. And that kind of made me stronger and helped me literally find my voice. So yeah, the storm will definitely, I believe, make you stronger, better, faster.
Yes. Yeah, there's so much that we learn going through life, and I always say, like, to our younger people, they don't have the life perspective that we do, but they have so many incredible skills, and when you can put them together, it just makes for a beautiful thing because we only learn through life and we
Mhm.
learn through whether it's a trial or something going on that we pulled that strength out because we're always stronger than we think, but we don't know until we go through it. What would you say? I'm in Rotary in my town, and we serve and we go and we do things in the community, and it just fills your heart. Do you have do you lean into service in your area that has really helped you, or is it something that you hear about but you haven't done as much of that?
Yeah, no, it's funny you should ask that. When my kids were growing up, I have two girls. When they were growing up, I was active in guiding brownies, sparks, and now I
Hmm.
have a granddaughter who's entering spark age. So I'm signing up as a leader. I think it's important to contribute to community in many different ways. And for me, that's something. Obviously, I'm an arts and crafts type person. I'm going to be the arts and crafts, spark leader, I think. So I'm just signing up this year for the fall. So I love that. I love being with children. I love, again, bringing up that creative spark in kids that, I hear all the time, oh, I'm not creative. I can't draw a straight line. Well, a straight line's boring. Let's draw a crooked line. So, there is a lot of misconception out there when it comes to creativity. So I think just starting off just with a scribble and making it into something is creative. And that's something that I really, really am proud to serve at a young level, at
Yes.
that beginning of school and that. I think that's where a lot of this starts, that creative spark starts.
Yeah, there. I have six granddaughters, and they're from 12 is the oldest down to one
Mm.
and a half. And they say the most beautiful things, the candor, the innocence, the way they communicate, it just absolutely fills your heart. And what story do you have as a grandparent that you could share with our community that may not be in that stage just yet?
As far as creativity with
Yeah,
kids.
with grandkids, just a story that you could share with us with your. Do you have one grandchild or?
Yeah, we just have one granddaughter. We'll probably
Okay.
only have one granddaughter, but that's why she's really extra precious to us.
Yeah. How
Um,
how
yeah,
old?
she's 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So going into grade 1 this year. So yeah,
Yeah.
she's pretty precious. Um, we have her once a week, and
Do
many
you
times we'll have her overnight. So we're very close to her. And I have to say, she's a very creative girl. She's kind of very much like me. Like
really?
she'll come over, we'll do whether we're just decorating cupcakes or painting, or I'm big into making Barbie doll clothes for her. And I guess the funny story is somebody commissioned me to do their Ken doll clothes. So I'm making tuxedos and, board shorts and t-shirts and all this stuff. And I'm having a lot of fun. But anyway, I think she was a little jealous when she came over and she goes, well, where's my Ken doll? Because I borrowed her Ken doll to size all these things. And anyway, I'm making all these clothes for this commission. And I'm looking around yesterday going, where's that Ken doll outfit? Like there was one that was a t-shirt and shorts. And it's like, I think she stole it. I think she took it. So, you never know. It makes
Yeah.
it funny and it makes it kind of cute that, oh, she must have really liked that outfit that she's got to steal it. But anyway, I've got to confront her when I see her this week. But anyway, she's just cute. Right? It's just fun.
Yeah.
They're cute little stories.
Yeah, they are, and they just the way that they look to the grandparents because it's just a special the way they interact with us. It is really beautiful to see. When you look to the future, like 5 years, and you think how fast AI is moving, what are you most excited about as things are changing rapidly?
Yeah, I'm a little trepidatious about AI and things moving forward, especially as a designer. I am, like I say, I'm seeing the positive side of AI with machine learning. I think that's where I can embrace it, and that's where it makes my job better,
Hmm.
where it makes me more efficient. Uh, yeah, I'm probably not the right person to answer that because I'm a little worried about AI and where it's going. I have a daughter that checks, chat GTP for personal issues. Oh, well, this guy didn't talk to me. So what does that mean? And she's using chat GTP to tell her how she should feel emotionally. That actually really concerns me. So I think that's why I think I just want people to really realize how creative they are and use their creative muscles every day in different ways, like hands-on. So I'm a little nervous about AI and where it's going. I'm a little nervous about history. I'm a royalist, being a Canadian. I love the Queen. I loved the grandkids that she has, and I'm a little worried when I see AI images of the Queen who is now deceased with a grandson who is 13. Well, she never knew him when he was 13. So when I see photos like that, it makes me nervous about changing history. I know that photo is not true, but my granddaughter may see it as, oh, isn't that a cute picture?
Yeah,
So I worry about the effects of AI in that regard. So
yeah,
as far as efficiency and maybe feeding creativity is, well, these are all the things I have in my fridge. What can I make for supper tonight, AI? That's kind of a good application for AI. But when I see images that are distorted and edited, it makes me very nervous. So
yeah. No, I agree. I talked to some of the professors at the local college, and they talk about how it's good if they use their creative part of them. Like I just finished reading for the second time, "Thinking for a Change" by John Maxwell, and it was written in 2002, many years ago, but it's timeless about thinking, the different type, and how it's so important that we exercise that muscle of thinking because
mhm.
they were sharing with me that too many of the students were using it not as a tool but as a crutch.
Yes.
and that, that's, we pull our creativity out of it when we don't use it properly. So when you look at your what you enjoy most about graphic design, is there like projects that you get like is excited about as like a little girl when that comes into your lap? Are there things that really excite you that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I work with clients that I like. So if I'm not connecting with a client, I generally don't work with them. We probably both feel there's not a fit.
Yeah.
So the people that I work with, I like to think I'm developing long-term relationships with, and many I have. So I feed off the energy of clients in many ways. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
what are you looking for? What are you doing? So I have found my design offering has expanded. Like I'm working with a client now, and he wants a video. So he wants kind of a movie trailer type video of him and his work, and it's like, oh, that's kind of exciting. I haven't done video before, so I'm on Adobe Express learning how to, you know, weave all these pieces of video in with music. And yeah, I'm not going to be the final videographer, but I'm doing the prototype. So I'm
Hmm.
finding that that is so exciting because it's a different medium. It's something I haven't done before. That's extremely exciting. And I know him very well. So that's been really exciting. I've also met a new client out of Chicago, actually, and we did a brand for her project. She's got a really, I think, a very important project that she's bridging university with the workplace and some gaps there. And she's doing this program, and I helped her with the brand. And I love that because I think it's important work. So whether it's fun or whether I feel like it's important work or whether it's a challenge that we're trying to solve, that's what I really get the most out of my design work is I feel like I get pumped
Yeah.
just working with the client, no matter what the medium. So whether it's print or whether it's video or whether it's a brand, I absolutely jump in with both feet and really get my hands dirty and really embrace it with everything I am, you know.
Mm. I love that. Do you have anything specifically you do to challenge yourself? Like, is there anything that you write, read, or put yourself in a position to challenge Laura?
Um, yeah, for me, I've joined a lot of online networking groups. I
Hmm.
belong to a breakfast meeting for the last 7 years. We met every week in person for breakfast. I love that. So for me, being that shy, quiet introvert, it was a big challenge to meet and be face to face with people. But it was great, and I really strengthened I think my networking skills. But now I'm doing online networking with mostly groups of women all across the world, and I'm
Yeah.
finding that's a challenge for me because when you've got 30 people on a Zoom call, it's hard to kind of, oh, I have something to say, but I'm learning to speak up and feed off, like you said, you're listening to other people and feeding off what they're saying and go, oh, I have a solution for that, or I have someone I think you should meet. And I'm finding that is challenging me from a network perspective and a
Mm.
people perspective. So yeah, I feel like I'm growing in so many different ways. And yeah, now that you ask those questions, it's like I didn't really think about it, but it is a challenge because it's not easy to always be up and be on a Zoom call and be positive. So and be wanting to network. So sometimes you just want, like you said, sometimes you just want to, do your quiet, the power of being quiet in front of your computer where you just get to work. And it is a challenge to go, okay, well, now I have to people. And sometimes you get tired of peopling.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There's a lady in my Rotary Club, and she was going to be the president. And so as we were talking, she shared that she's an introvert. And so I said, like, what do you do that helps you to kind of, because when you're an introvert, you like people, but you don't want to be the center of the attention of the room. So what do you do? And she was sharing a book, and it was like she'll look at the room and she'll find a certain person or two to have a meaningful conversation. Do you have any relationship building tip that you could share with us that has honored you?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's, certainly when you're going up to someone in a group and you're shaking their hand and you're introducing yourself, oh, I'm Laura and I'm a graphic designer. That's kind of boring in a way. It's like, oh, what do you, and it's, I like to flip it and go, okay, well, what do you do? Or, do you have kids? Like, what do you do for fun? Did you go to the Calgary Stampede? I try to open that up a little bit broader than just, we're here at a business networking meeting and we're just going to talk business. It's like, I really do like to get to know, oh, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Do you have a family? What do you do for, off work? I find that interesting, and it kind of rounds out the story a
Yeah.
lot more than, okay, well, I know that you're a lawyer, but what do you do for fun or whatever? I try to flip it a little bit.
No, that's really good. I want to be respectful of your time, Laura. So tell our viewers, I have one more question after this. Tell our viewers, how can they get more of Laura?
Well, I'm online. I'm on LinkedIn, Laura Ballerini. I've got a website. It's bluebrown.com. There's no E in blue. So
Mm-hmm.
BLUBROWN.com. It's named after my two daughters. One has blue eyes, one has brown eyes. And it was to see the world through the eyes of a child. So that's where that name came from. So, and I also have an author website, lauraballerini.com. So I'm pretty active online. I am updating my portfolio on bluebrown.com. So I've got a whole bunch of more recent work that I haven't posted because I've been quite busy. So I'm working on that. But yeah, I'm kind of everywhere online.
Awesome. Tell us about your book now. So do you have one or many, or what is the book about and why did you write it?
Yeah, so my book is called The Green Velvet Chair. It's the book that I wrote with an editor out of LA, Kathy Sparrow. And I wrote it with these story pods that I worked on 5 years ago. That's where I found, oh, I can tell a story and I can make people laugh and I can make people cry. And that was through Adele Fedoric. And I told her, you changed my life because you literally helped me find my voice. So from that story pod group, I met Kathy. I wrote a book, and it's short essays. It's not a novel, and it's not a read from chapter 1 to chapter 17. You can pick it up and read anything, but it's basically about what I know. It's about art and design in everyday life. It's about walking down the street and going, wow, look at the symmetry of the trees down the street. Somebody had a design vision in mind when they planted these trees. Or, going downtown and seeing all the architecture. That's art and design. Seeing how somebody curls their hair. Well, that's art and design. I look at your glasses. You chose those glasses because they frame your face nicely and they make you look really intelligent, right? There's art and design in every choice that we make. So that's what my stories relate to. It's, my mom was Ukrainian. She taught us how to make Ukrainian Easter eggs. And in a world of everything that's going on in this world, let's respect our heritage. Let's respect the foods that are brought to the table and the family traditions and the values. So it's heartwarming stories. They're all positive stories. Some are about death, but they're about me designing a eulogy for my mother-in-law, but they're positive. So I really focused on positive stories about art and design in everyday life. And I've also been involved in some anthologies. So yeah. I've done chapters in other books as well.
I'll talk to people, and I have 3 books, but I flunked English in high school, so my English teacher would never have thought I would write anything. But here, when I had the last book I had, I would text this person that I finished, and I just got down and I zeroed down and I started writing every morning early, and I would text them that I finished it. How hard was it for you to start a book and then complete it?
Well, that was the easy part because I was part of this storytelling pod. So I was orally telling stories. I started writing them down, and it was one essay at a time. Mm-hmm. So it's like before I knew it, I had accumulated 30 different essays. And when I worked with Kathy, she helped me organize it. And of course, she edited it. And I found, to be honest, I find writing the book was the easiest part. It was the most fun. Marketing the book is difficult. Marketing the book and keeping it top of mind and I was top 10 on Amazon for, a split second.
Uh-huh.
It's hard. It's hard to keep those books marketed properly. So that's been my challenge. Writing it was a joy. Uh, it was quite effortless because I wrote from my heart,
Right.
and I've worked with great people. Like Kathy was just fantastic. But it's the marketing I find is quite challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. There seems to be a lot of noise out there because there's a lot of books that have been written, and separating yourself out there is not the easiest thing. I do agree with you. So, what would be the one thing that Laura would want our viewers to take home from this time on this podcast?
Yeah, it's how I sign my book when I do sell a copy. Be creatively fierce.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Dang, that is so good. Laura, thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing your journey, your story, and being with us on this podcast today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Pete. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure too, as my Chick-fil-A people would say.